Hello everyone and very welcome to my YouTube channel Laiba's English Corner. In today's video, we are going to discuss an important literary term, the important type of genre, which is poetry. Before moving forward to our topic, it's request to subscribe my channel for further English, grammatical and educational videos. We will discuss what is poetry with definition and we will see different types and techniques to write a poetry. Poetry is mostly in listen form. It is one of the older genre of literature. So, we will start with the definition that what is poetry. We have listened poetry from our childhood, but today we will be clear with our concept of poetry. Poetry is the spontaneous flow of one's thought or idea. Spontaneous means continuous flow of one's thought or idea. Poetry is the type of artistic writing which uses language in a special way to convey emotions, ideas, and vivid image. It means that in poetry, we are using artistic writing. We are using special techniques to make it more beautiful and with the rhyming scheme. Rhyming schemes are important in poetry. As I mentioned before, that rhyming words are very important in poetry and creative words choices to make a written piece more beautiful and meaningful. Rhyming scheme help us to create a flow within the poem. Now we will see an example of rhyming scheme that how it makes it so beautiful. Example is roses are red, violets are blue. Sugar is sweet and so are you. So in these there is rhyming scheme. So this was an interesting example of rhyming scheme. I hope you are clear with the concept of rhyming scheme when we have similar words or similar sounds in it. Now we will move forward to our next thing, which is two basic ways to write a poem. Basically, it can also be included in the different types of literature, but we are taking it as a separate in two basic ways. Basically, there are two basic ways to write a poem. Number one is narrative poem or narrative poetry. What is narrative poetry? Basically, it is a long poem like epic. And what is epic? We will discuss in our next slides. For now, you can remember that epic is a long poem. Basically, it have proper plot. Mean in narrative poetry there is a sequence of events that how it will start, what is in the middle and how will it end. So plot mean sequence of events, coherence of event. Okay, here is a proper plot. When there will be proper plot, we will understand the thing more easily. So this is narrative poetry. After narrative poetry, the second type is lyric poetry. What is lyric poetry? Basically, it is the shortest form of a poem. As I mentioned before, in narrative there are epics and epics are so big. So in lyric, it is the shortest poem. For example, like sonnets. What is sonnet? Sonnet is basically the short poem of 14 lines in which we are addressing to our beloved person. So now we are clear with our two basic ways to write a poem. Next, we are going to discuss the different types of poetry, which is very important to understand. Make sure to listen carefully and clear with your concept. So, we will start with our number one type of poetry, which is epic. As I mentioned the name of epic earlier in the narrative poetry. So now we will see the proper definition. An epic poem is a long and detailed narrative poem. It means it's too big poetry. Basically, it consists of thousand or more than thousand lines, or it can have such a long, thick books. We will see some examples that which are the famous epics. Number one, Rape of the Lock. Rape of the Lock is by Edgar Pope, and Fairy Queen, which is a famous epic written by Spenser. So these are long books of poetry. Number two is Ballad. What is ballad? Ballad is a form of poetry. Basically, it is a short poem. Ballad is written with the purpose of singing. Ballad is mostly performed on the stage. So, only reason of writing ballad is to with the purpose of singing, that it is to be performed on stage. We will have an example. For example, Bara Allen. A man was in love with Bara, so he wrote a short poem with the purpose of singing, and it is to be performed on stage. So you are clear with your two concepts, which is ballad and epic. The third type which we are going to discuss is elegy. What is elegy? Basically, elegy is a mournful poetry, mean it is a sad poetry. How it is sad? In elegy, a person write a poem to the death of his relative or a friend or a close one. So it is elegy. It is a mournful poetry, it is a sad poetry. We will have an example. For example, Adonis. Adonis is written by Shelley in the sadness of his close friend death, John Keats. So this was as a tribute to him. After elegy, the next which we are going to discuss is sonnet. I have already mentioned before sonnet. Sonnet is basically the shortest poem. So poem with just 14 lines is sonnet. It is basically a short poem, the smallest of all in literature. For example, shall I compare thee to the summer days? This was a famous Shakespeare sonnet, which is still popular today. Have a look at this sonnet too. So always remember, sonnet consists of 14 lines. So this was all from my side. In today's video, we have discussed a lot of poetry. Don't forget to subscribe my channel for further English and grammatical videos. Avoid the background music because I can't get any space here to record the voice without any disturbance. So thank you so much. Need your support.